All right, so how many of you prepare for stuff? I'm not talking about liberals. You guys are, all these liberals are progressively more and more dependent on government. I'm talking about real Americans. If you buy, insurance for your home, fire extinguisher in your kitchen, maybe a generator, maybe you have extra water, a gun, in my case, lots of guns and even more ammunition, and food.
Food security, just like energy resilience, just like where we get our water, that's all national security, especially in a contingency. So we would be asleep at the wheel if we were not fully a party to an effort like this to ensure that our nation had the food supply it needs.
This is one of the most understated threats. Sure, look, our system works now, and you have 7 grocery stores that you pass by just on your morning commute, and they're full of food. But what would it take to disrupt that? I mean, the perishable items in your grocery store got to be reshelved every 2, 3, 4 days. One hiccup of the supplier could affect millions of people. In fact, one person could. You know who the single largest owner of farmland is in America? This is going to freak you out. Bill Gates. He owns 275,000 acres of farmland across the United States that he uses to try all kinds of weird genetic experiments on our food, too. None of that ever pollinates off his property, right? He's not even a farmer. But you know what he is? He's a guy who thinks we're overpopulated.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Not a great look for the guy who controls a not insignificant portion of our food supply chain. And his GMOs and pesticides are used on a whole lot of other food supplies, too. And I'm not the only one concerned here. In a letter to Bill Gates, signed by 50 agricultural organizations concerned about food sovereignty, they were heavily critical about his methods and him, saying, quote, "It is your preferred high-tech solutions, including genetic engineering, new breeding technology, and now digital agriculture that have, in fact, consistently failed to reduce hunger or increase food access as promised." All accurate. But what's even more concerning than Bill Gates and his nearly 300,000 acres of mad scientist farmland, you know how much owned by other countries? More than 45 million. It's actually up 1.6 million. More than 15 million acres is owned by Canada, contributing to literally half of their country's food supply. I don't think Trump hasn't had this conversation with the leaders of Canada while talking about all the tariffs. You have the Netherlands with 5 million acres, Italy with 2.7 million acres, the United Kingdom and Germany close behind them. And behind them, you have significantly less, 277,000 acres owned by China. Now, this may only account for 0.02% of the agricultural land in America, which is still 0.202% more than any adversary should own here, but they were able to hide behind all the other nations owning farmland, and nobody raised any eyebrows because it was a seemingly insignificant amount of land, until you consider where. As you can see here, hiding behind all other nations producing food here, China bought what they're saying is, and they're claiming on their taxes is agricultural property, which just so happens to be located, most of which, around our strategic military bases. And finally, someone's actually doing something about it.
As someone who's charged with leading the Defense Department, I want to know who owns the land around our bases and strategic bases, and getting an understanding of why foreign entities, foreign companies, foreign individuals might be buying up land around those bases. That's something I should be paying attention to on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my department, and on behalf of the president. It's common sense.
I mean, thank God, because while other countries might be actually farming the land they own here for, food and stuff, which is then shipped out of our country to sustain them, China is taking advantage of our agricultural tax credits and doing all kinds of weird stuff, like the Fufang Group in North Dakota. This is a small, only 370-acre farm purchase for what, they're saying was well above what it was worth, how they purchased it. It's also weirdly right outside Grand Forks Air Force Base, which Oh, that's right. They do sensitive drone stuff there too. Weird. Now you remember this place. This is a Chinese balloon. Remember that guy? Flew all the way over. This was one of the bases it flew over. That small farm immediately after being purchased by the Chinese had proposals to build huge infrastructure on it, calling it a milling plant. Now, this sparked all kinds of concerns from U.S. officials, including an Air Force Major, Jeremy Fox, who suggested in a 2022 memo that the site could be used for passive receiving equipment to intercept drone communications. Remember, our drones are flown out of here in America, even when they're overseas. Sun Guangxin, Texas, the holdings company, over 100,000 acres in Val Verde County, Texas, right near Laughlin Air Force Base. That land was intended for a wind farm project, still falls under some sort of agriculture credit, but it was not actually farming, but was halted in 2021 by, thankfully, a Texas law preventing foreign entities from accessing the state's power grid. Had they gone through with this, China would have had access to sectors of the power grid not previously allowed. In fact, in the last 19 bases across the United States have drawn serious suspicion for China or their affiliates buying land with so little actual value, or ROI at least, compared to other areas that they could have purchased if they actually wanted to farm crops. Our farmland, folks, is ours. It's not anyone else's. I don't understand why we've allowed others to cultivate it at our expense, by the way, because they get huge credits for this. For whatever reason, though, it's happening. Thank God we're finally addressing it.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.